Maria.
Oh, thank you so much, Rachel. And thank you so much for having me here to talk about treatment for this patient group. As you said, I have a lot of both clinical and research experience with this group. And recently, I've been involved in two different RCTs, research projects, where we are checking out different therapies for adults with long COVID. And first off, I just want to say, Vanessa and Julie, huge thanks to you guys for being here and sharing your stories, and Rachel as well. I know you're open with sharing your stories and how you have recovered, how bad it was, and then recovery. And this, I think it's so important for other patients to hear this, but also for other clinicians to hear this. And it's not easy because this field of medicine is kind of a weird field because patients who have recovered and tell their recovery stories, they actually get quite much harassment. And also researchers and clinicians who talk about effective treatments for this patient group can get scoffed at and bullied. Yet the research have been quite clear for many years now what works within this group. And we know that cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and also different kinds of exposure therapies work for this patient group. And with exposure therapy, I'm talking about therapies where patients gradually do things they have stopped doing due to their symptoms, but with the therapeutic help and a different kind of understanding of what's going on, then they don't experience the symptoms the same way. So why the controversy? Why is this so hard for the world to understand? And I think it's a huge problem within Western medicine, how we understand the body. Western medicine is clearly divided between physical and mental in our healthcare system. And we don't actually haven't been aware of how our bodies work. And as Anna was so neatly talking about, how all the different bodily systems are integrated and connected. And our brain is not a separate thing away apart from the body. It's so integrated. So what I feel when I meet patients, and what's important also in research, is you have to understand, or you don't have to understand, but have a different view of your symptoms. So actually, before I talk about the treatment, I would like to talk about what is all these symptoms. Like Vanessa and Julie talked about, they've been so sick, they have never been so sick before, and what's going on. And no matter how we view it, we can't get through that. Symptoms occur when certain areas in the brain are activated. So if we put any patients in a brain scanner and induce pain, physical pain, you can see certain areas of the brain light up. And then if we induce pain by hypnosis or even make them visualize pain, it's the same areas of the brain that lights up. So to feel symptoms, you have to have some brain activity. Actually, symptoms is a brain function. So the areas that light up when you feel these sickness behavior symptoms, pain, fatigue, are areas that overlap with these areas that also govern the stress system, like Anna was talking about, and are also working on what's important, what's happening inside the body, and what's important to be aware of, and how could we stay healthy and alive. These circuits within the brain could obviously be activated by tissue damage, but it could also be something different. Like in the fMRI scanner, you could have a physical pain stimuli that activate the pain areas, but you could also just be thinking about pain and then feeling pain. And what we know about acute symptoms are quite well correlated with what's happening with your body. Chronic symptoms are quite way off. So how about all these physiological changes? Vanessa, Julie, Rachel, all you guys were talking about, all these physiological changes. Well, we know that patients that experience chronic symptoms like chronic fatigue, chronic pain, they have a slight increase in the sympathetic nerve system, the stress nerve system. They have a slight decrease in the parasympathetic nervous system, and it was like yin yang, like Anna was talking about. They also have a slight immune activation, and also the HPA axis is not working there. It's not as flexible as in a normal person. So it's a bit off. And in extreme cases, you see POTS, like Vanessa and Julie talked about, and you see MCAS. POTS being postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, where you get a really high heart rate just from standing up, and MCAS being mast cell activation syndrome, where the mast cells within the immune system activate really easily. And what could you do to treat? Because here we come into treatment, and you could give medication to treat the mast cell activation, to reduce the mast cell activation, and you could also give medication to reduce the heart rate. However, if you give this medication, maybe the heart rate goes down a bit, but the patient generally don't feel any better. And what Anna gave us a short, brilliant lecture on is because all of these systems interacting, and all the symptom load is still activated, even though you have changed the physiology a slight bit. But what we do see, if we treat the symptoms, then the physiology seems to normalize. So it seems really important to do something with the symptom activation within the brain. So how could we get rid of the symptoms? Well, as we talked about, we know that cognitive behavioral therapy helps, and also exposure therapies. And for the last 10, 15 years, it's been a true development within neuroscience, understanding how the brain works and the bodily systems works in a predictive manner, and how they cooperate and work together. So the recent years, it's been coming more and more mind-body therapies or brain training therapies. And for all of these therapies, what's consistent? For all therapies, the patients get a different explanation for the symptoms. Rachel, you mentioned that you were really scared of your blue toes, but when you understood, okay, it's my physiology is slightly off, but that's not dangerous, and the symptoms itself is not dangerous. When you understand that, then you will go into the therapy with a different mindset, and you can have different kind of experience. So that's the same across all of these therapies. And if we focus more on each therapy form, the cognitive behavioral therapies, they are working on how thoughts influence the symptoms, how you feel, what you think about, how you think about the situation influences how you feel and how you behave. So both work on the thoughts and not going into avoidance behavior. With the exposure therapies, you are kind of not talking so much about your thoughts, but just go straight ahead to do the work. You are gradually making, I suppose, starting at the safe level for the patient, and then just gradually building on that. With a new kind of understanding of symptoms, then you will feel more safe and have a different experience. Again, it's key with a different kind of experience. And the neuro mind-body therapies, they work much more on symptom perception. How could we change and manipulate how we actually feel symptoms? How does the brain work? Because as both Vanessa and Julie were talking about, an activated, stressed brain, you don't have to feel like, oh, I'm super stressed. You could just be really activated, like having a full life, like Vanessa was talking about. It was an activated brain produces more symptoms. That state of mind produces easier symptoms than a calm state of mind. So then you're working on different kinds of ways to change your symptom perception. And I do think it's not so much research on what therapies work for different kind of patients, but I see patients, some patients come to me and they are afraid to do anything, have massive avoidance behavior. And then you could easily go on to addressing that, and with a secure environment, try to do some things with a new experience. But also I have patients that are, okay, I'm not doing the avoidance behavior. push through. I'm going to do this. No matter how much symptoms I got. And then you're not helping, because if you understand how the brain works and would learn to associate symptoms with everything you do, and if you just push through and still experience the symptom, you would just manifest the symptom even more. So for those, I think the neuro mind body therapy is maybe working even better. Yeah.
Maria, thank you very much. That was fascinating, and you're getting some claps already.